I've been a software engineer for 21 years, and over the last year my job has changed more than in the previous 20 combined. Now I work with AI agents every day. Claude Desktop for planning, Claude Code for implementation, Codex for review, and in that process I've learned things the hard way that nobody warned me about. These are the 9 things nobody told me about AI-assisted engineering. I stopped writing code. This one hit me harder than I expected. I spent 21 years getting good at writing code. I literally wrote a book about it. That was my identity. I was the person who could look at problems, do my due diligence research, open an editor and build a solution. That was what made me an engineer. And then, almost overnight, I stopped. I don't write code anymore. I describe what I want, I review what an agent produces, I make decisions, I direct. But I don't type the code. That sounds liberating, and it is. But it's also a genuine identity crisis. If I don't write the code, am I still an engineer? It took me months to realize, yes, I always was. The code was never the point. The point was in the thinking. Talking about using AI agents, it's a taboo. And here's one thing nobody talks about. You can't say this out loud. Try walking into a stand-up and say, hey, I didn't write any of this code. An AI agent did, and I supervised it. See how that lands with your manager. See how that lands in an interview. There are companies that are not ready yet to hear that their engineers aren't writing code in the traditional sense. There are managers who will interpret that as you are not working, and there are colleagues who will question whether you are actually making responsible output out of the code that you write. So right now in 2026, a lot of engineers are working like this, and almost nobody is saying it publicly. It is indeed an open secret. Agentic complacency. When you first start working with AI agents, you check every line. You're cautious, you don't trust the output. Then the agent gets 3 things right in a row. Then 5, then 10, and something shifts in your brain. You start scheming instead of reading. You start approving without really reviewing. That is what I call agentic complacency, and that is dangerous, because when the agent gets something wrong, and believe me, it will, you will not catch it. You will ship it, and you will have bugs in production that you didn't write, didn't read, and didn't even notice, and the way you learn was by doing a git blame on that buggy code. The moment you stop paying attention is the moment you stop being an engineer and start being a spectator in your own project. Do review your code. More than half of the code that you are going to produce will potentially be tests and pipelines that you don't normally automate. So it takes time, especially the code that is out of your ecosystem of comfort. We'll get to that later. Automation is a trap. If you are an engineer, your instinct is to automate everything. That's what we do. See a repetitive task, you write a script, eliminate the manual step. So when you start working with AI agents, the natural impulse is, let me automate the whole pipeline. Agents reads the ticket, writes the code, runs the test, open the PR. No human required. Maximum efficiency. Don't do this. An agent without human reviewing its decision will optimize for completing the task, not for making the right decision. Those are not the same thing. Human in the loop is not a buzzword. You are the quality control. Remove yourself from the loop and you do not have an autonomous engineer. You have an autonomous liability. Context is everything. When a session gets long, the system compresses the conversation to make room. And after that compression, things get lost. Not small things, decision, context that took you an hour to build. I recently saw the creator of Claude Code responding on X when you should intervene in that process, and his answer was never. I respect that, but I compliment it, because in my experience, the system does not always know what matters. I do. TDD is more important now, not less. When you write your own code, you have an intuition about where the bugs are. You wrote it, you know which corners you cut. When an agent writes the code, you don't have that. You are reading code someone else produced, except that someone else does not have 21 years of experience with production systems. It won't tell you where it cut corners because it doesn't know it did. Tests are the only safety net you have left. Write them first. Let the agent implement against the test, not the other way around. And if you are using AI agents without TDD, you are flying blind and you are trusting that the autopilot knows where the mountains are. This job will burn you out. When an agent is thinking, you have 30 seconds with nothing to do. So you switch to another terminal and start a second task. Then the first one finishes and you go back. Then the second one needs a decision and then you switch again. You start chaining tasks. One agent finishes, you launch the next one. Another one is waiting, so you'll fill the gap with something else. Your brain never gets a gap. There is no idle time. There is no moment where you're just sitting, thinking, and doing nothing. And 2 tasks, it's manageable. At 3, you start making mistakes. At 5, you are making decisions on one project while thinking on another. And at 10, you are not working anymore. You are frozen. You are staring at screens and you can't think clearly about any of them. By the end of the day, you are fried. Not tired, fried. And the worst part is it felt productive the whole time. The ground moves under your feet. What you learn today might not work tomorrow. A technique that's brilliant with one model breaks with the next version. A workflow you spent weeks perfecting becomes obsolete with a single update. My entire research into agent behavior is based on analyzing thinking blocks. One day, a backend change hit them. No announcement, no changelog. I had to spend time figuring out how to get them back. The foundation of months of work gone overnight because of a change I had no control over. And you cannot stop learning, ever. The tools change faster than your ability to master them. You are not learning once and applying forever. You are relearning constantly. That's the reality of this job in 2026. You have to learn faster than the ground moves. The job changed, and it's actually better. I started this video telling you I stopped writing code, and it felt like a loss. But here is what I didn't expect. When you stop using AI agents just to generate code and you start using them to think, to plan, to learn, something changes. I come from TypeScript, that's my world, but I studied fundamentals in C. I have years of experience with PHP. I learned design patterns on Java. I know what good code looks like and what bad code smells like. And now, working with agents, I have projects in Python, in Kotlin, in Swift, languages I never worked in professionally. I can't write Python from scratch, but I can read it. I can spot anti-patterns. I can detect bad code in languages I am not comfortable writing because the fundamentals translate and the agent handles the syntax. That was never possible before. My entire career I was locked into whatever ecosystem I had experience in. Now the ecosystem doesn't matter. The thinking matters, and that opened the world to me. Those are my 9. I am sure you have your own, and if any of these resonated or if you've learned something I have not, I'd love to hear about them in the comments. If you want to see how and what this looks like in practice, my last few videos show the actual workflow, the agents, the code, the mistakes. Links are on the screen. I am Javi, the LLM Whisperer. I hope you all have a good one, and I'll see you in the next one. Adiós!